Okay. Well, thank you for your patience in that. That was fun. That's always fun. Um, okay. So I think everyone's linked up in the Discord group. Um, my hopes is that within this container, even though this is just 30 days, that we can continue this community because this is a continued process of work. Especially if you're not choosing to go into the full break method program after this. I definitely recommend it. I myself am starting it in February. Um,
Mhm.
so if any of you are looking into the bigger program and really wanting to fully immerse yourself in that, it would be such an awesome experience to be able to go through that together as well. But I want this work to be able to continue, and I'm going to be running these 30-day challenges about 6 times a year. So you can always hop back in, and you're always going to be looking at this from a different lens as we continue through this work. Your perspective is going to change drastically, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But this is the first of 3 webinar series that I'm going to be putting out in January. You Are Not Your Thoughts is the first. The gut brain axis is the second. We'll be talking about the communication between our two brains, and also how food and hormones affect our mental state. And then the third and final, which is so exciting, and we'll get to on day 28 of this journey, is rewiring through goal setting. So we're breaking it all down and getting to the core of our belief systems and understanding where these thoughts come from. And the main goal in this entire thing is that I want you to be able to separate yourself from your thoughts. These are two very distinct things. And as we explore through this webinar today, we're going to be able to understand how to differentiate the two and begin shifting our perspective, our lens. Okay, now go forward. Come on. Okay, there we go. So, the only thing in life that we can control is how we choose to respond. So, let me know if you think that this is true. You can always unmute yourself. I do better when I'm teaching if this is a conversation. getting on, getting on, and talking to myself is not something that I'm gifted at. I've tried recording these webinars on my own just to be able to get some practice and to feel more comfortable. I don't feel comfortable. I feel comfortable talking to you guys and sharing and hearing from you. So at any point, if you want to hop in and either ask a question or make some sort of um, aha declaration to the group, and that's totally welcome. But by taking the steps to free yourself from our emotional addiction, which we are addicted to these emotions that we feel, it doesn't make you void of emotion. It actually makes you free to be able to emote authentically, feeling true feelings in the present instead of as an autopilot response or something that you have been set up for, a program that's running in the background that you're not even aware of. So we're going to talk about healing roadblocks and how to actually hold the line and move forward with this work.
Mhm.
So let's talk about what these roadblocks are. And the first one is a game changer. So, and this is going to be 100% of the time. Come on, go forward. You.
Right.
You are definitely the number one thing holding you back, no matter what the issue is, no matter what the goal is. You might want to play the blame game on somebody else and deflect, but 99.9% of the time, you are what's holding you back. You are blocking yourself from going forward. Let me know if this is true.
So true.
So
Yep.
true. I'm gonna let Bridget in here. Hi, Bridget. Sorry, girl. I'm gonna mute you. We're just getting started. Welcome. Hi, love. And you're welcome to keep your camera on. If you want your camera on, you don't have to have your camera on, certainly. But also, anytime you want to unmute yourself and chime in, we just really just started talking about how we're going to take control of our thoughts and how we are completely and distinctly separate from our thoughts. And now we're jumping into our healing the roadblocks and becoming aware of what the roadblocks are. And the number one thing that holds us back is ourselves. So, the number two thing is your protective reflexes. And we're going to dive into each of these roadblocks a little bit deeper as we continue. But these are going to be our automatic responses. Programming that we have been given from example from our immediate relationships, whether that's our parents, our grandparents, aunts, and uncles. Protective reflexes are going to be holding us back. Excuses for other people. Yeah, how true is this? We
Big
like
one.
to, yeah, we like to, well, if she would have been able to meet me halfway, I would have been able to succeed. No. Or, well, they have things going on, it's okay. It's okay. Right? We deflect and then we pull back and allow ourselves to not fully meet our capabilities, our abilities to go forward. Your learned helplessness. Oh my gosh, I've had a lot of learned helplessness throughout the certification, but in life in general, or your self sabotage cocktail. So you might have you know, your relationship where you have a best friend or a girlfriend. For me, I like to share my experiences and my stories, and going back looking at how I was sharing my stories, I see how I was keeping myself in this perpetual loop of whatever the issue was, relationship issues. Specifically, I have a lot of family trauma, so my stories, as we go through this, you're going to learn a lot about my experience um, personally, but I, had a lot of codependent issues and enabling issues. And, I'm a abandon, hold it all together type. And we're going to be learning about our emotional types and all of that as we progress. But I would call a girlfriend and just, put all of my emotion and feeling into what was happening. And it was projecting it into my experience again and again. And I was allowing it to happen because I was addicted to it. It felt safe to be taken advantage of for my brain, which is not true. Number five roadblock that holds us back, our fear of commitment. Oh my gosh, we all have a fear of commitment. Even if it's the thing that we want the most, we're afraid of it because we're afraid that we're going to be disappointed or we're going to be let down. Let me know if this is true for you. Number six, roadblock that holds us back, what facing the truth actually means in your life. So, could this mean actually walking away from a relationship that isn't serving you? And how scary is that? And does that hold us back from actually moving forward many times? Yes, absolutely. Because going back to number five, we want commitment. We want to be in relationship. We want it, we desire for it to be successful. But if there's not an equal give and take, or at least a 60-40 balance in your energetics, there's going to need to be some sort of shift. And I'm not encouraging anyone to make any sort of drastic decisions going through from this because you're going to get triggered. You're going to question a lot of things in your life. But
Mhm.
during this 30-day container, I do not want you to make any decision as far as, unless you are in immediate harm or danger. In that case, I want you to reach out to me and we'll get you linked up with some break practitioners that have more resources to be able to help you because you might be in a chaotic pattern. And we'll talk about that again as we go forward. So, what facing the truth actually means in your life can be very, very scary for most. So you're going to confront all of these roadblocks during our 30 days together. You're going to experience it, and it's going to be awesome. I promise. So my goals for you during the self-study program is that you realize that you're wearing and have been wearing a set of glasses for your entire life that completely distorts your perception of reality in a subjective way. So what we think is reality is entirely different for everybody else experiencing it, even if it's the same experience. So think of a time when maybe a sibling or a friend and you were sharing an experience, and then as it comes out, what they experienced was entirely different than your experience, and you're like, that didn't happen that way, this was the way that it happened, right? It doesn't make their reality any less true, or that you are right and they are wrong, or vice versa. It's just that what they saw and how they experienced it had to do with their wiring in their brain and their prescription. So if you were to grab somebody else's prescription glasses and put them on, you probably wouldn't be able to see very well, right? It's the same thing with our perceptions of reality. Number two thing is I want to help you understand how to use the data rich information that we extracted from your prompts. So we're going to be going through our daily prompts. And this data created your lens prescription. So you're going to know exactly what your lens prescription is. So we must learn how to understand the prescription to be able to create a new baseline measurement of objective reality. And number three, to learn how to take off these glasses so that we can completely transform our relationships, our internal dialogue, our mechanisms of self-sabotage, chaos, accomplished goals, and so much more. So internal dialogue is, you know, the chatter that overtakes us. It's that conversation that's going on in the background. So we're meant to become objective, remove ourselves from that internal chatter. We think something around 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and they say about 80% of those thoughts are negative. And that is not who we are at a baseline. That's not who we are at our core. So we go in and dissect this all and figure out where this internal dialogue comes from and completely rewire it and reset it so that we can feel free. Honestly, the goal of all of this is freedom and sovereignty. So what goes into your glasses prescription? So your lens prescription is created by pivotal moments that triggered protective and adaptive reflexes. So the implicit and explicit expectations of beliefs that are passed down to you by family, by schooling, friends, religion, and emotional homeostasis, which we'll talk about. And this is secured by your body by age 10. So we're walking around with a prescription that we've had since we were 10 years old. So how do your beliefs affect your perception of reality? Does anybody want to talk about an experience that they might have had with a family member or a situation? You certainly don't have to, but you can chat it in or unmute yourself if you'd like. And don't be shy. I know this is always kind of awkward on here.
I can share. I don't like have like a specific example, but me and my dad always like seem to have complete opposite beliefs. And like I guess I could say, for example, with like my husband, he's from a different country, and like me going there for the first time, like his perception of like the world and him not like experiencing anything other outside of like Iowa or the Midwest. It just seems like he might have more of a closed minded of like what the actual world it has to offer and what's out there. So
Mm-hmm.
it comes back to like even some of his political beliefs and just it just we just clash a lot on like I have more trust in people in the world, whereas like he might be more he's like the world is so scary and like
Yeah,
so we butt heads on that a lot.
absolutely. Thank you for sharing. 100%. And as we begin to expand our horizons and maybe go out into the world or meet new people and experience new cultures, our prescription begins to change a little bit. So, but a lot of times too, we find that we are still falling back into these behaviors and we're like, why is it that I can't continue forward when even though like my perception has begun to change, I'm still falling back into the same habits or the same arguments, the same conversations again and again. And this is because our brain feels comfortable in that distorted perception. So I want you to remember where our input and our output is. So input is going to be our parents' actions, our parents' choices, their emotional intelligence, their affection, their level of organization, and your overall feeling of safety, their overall feeling of safety. So output is going to be you. So this is the child's definitions, beliefs, their assumptions based on what they're witnessing, and rules that are created to teach the child how to engage with the inputs, formulate actions, choices, etc. So this is why we have to go undetected to be able to disable your protective reflexes. Like I said, our brain is addicted to this initial programming that we have. It wants to go back to that 10-year-old self. But unfortunately, you are the problem, but you are also your solution. And so that's where break method comes in. So the path to resolution and freedom is just around the corner. So your patterns that you have, this program that's running actually dictates your behavioral choices, your relationship choices, your goal setting and follow through. This is a big thing this time of year, right? A lot of people are making resolutions and wanting to set those goals. And how often do we kind of laugh as February rolls around when we're like, oh, that's down the toilet, right? No more
Falls
going
off
to the
at like
gym.
18 days.
What was that? 18 days?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't and it takes there was a couple years ago, it was like, "Oh, it takes 21 days to make a habit." I'm sorry, but it takes far more than that to make a habit. It takes at least 80 days to be able to really establish routine habitual behaviors, and it takes a lot more than that to be able to follow through and create a lifestyle of it. But through this framework, we're actually going to be able to stop that self sabotage and be able to be dedicated to our goals and follow through. Um, your patterns are also going to dictate your communication patterns, your assumptions and your conclusions, your entire perception of reality, your tone of voice and your body language. How many times have you been in a conversation, or maybe it's a little bit heated, and the other person says, "Stop yelling at me," and you say, "I'm not yelling," and you don't believe that you are yelling, or vice versa? Have you been in that situation? Yeah, Lydia's like, "Yep."
Or stop looking at me that way.
Yes, yeah, what's
Right.
your problem, right? Yeah, totally. It
Your
affects
your
your
body language speaks
Yeah,
so
body
high.
language is huge. Yes, it is. And women, we'll talk about how women are more, and we know this, are more intuitive. That's a more feminine feeling is intuition. But we can intuit and misinterpret through our disordered perception. So those assumptions, right, are not quite that intuitive hit that we think, right? And so we'll be able to better um, separate the two of those as well and be able to tune into your intuition quite a bit more. So it affects your career aspirations. How many times, again, like we know that we're the problem now. Like how many times have we held us back from going after our dream job, or our, switching into a entrepreneur type role if that's what's calling you? It's scary, right? A lot of people are getting into that, wanting to have, some sort of um side hustle or something that they do to be able to, maybe make a little extra money, and then they go all in and then it fizzles out after only a short amount of time. It also affects our relationship to sexuality and our gender expression, our habits and our lifestyle choices, and even your relationship to God. So let's talk about redefining trauma. Some of you may sit here thinking that your childhood was uneventful or normal and perfect, and while others might be hyper aware of a childhood trauma at every turn. So this was my experience. I definitely did not have any sort of uneventful, normal, or perfect childhood by any means. But when we do have people that have uneventful, normal, or perfect childhood experiences, that's actually where we really need to focus because, we still have these pattern programmings that are running the show and are causing conflict within our life. And all of it comes back to that, 1 to 10-year-old range. So there were things that were happening in your childhood that were traumatic. So anything that is not defined as inspiring innocence, curiosity, or love in a child can actually be defined as trauma. Okay, that's kind of, that is the context of it. So if it's not inspiring creativity, love, I just lost the other one, creativity, innocence, and love, then it can be defined as trauma. So here's why trauma is subjective, elusive, and important to define very carefully. So emotional homeostasis is the emotional state that we experience with the highest frequency during childhood. It becomes our brain's safety loop moving forward. So the brain will perceive any experience or emotional response in opposition to this script as unsafe because it's unknown. So we start with repetitive childhood conflicts or emotional experiences. So whether it's watching a parent fight, a divorce, it doesn't have to be sexual abuse, but a lot of times that's what is coming up within this container is sexual abuse. And then that becomes the body's status quo. So this is their emotional homeostasis. And then the brain seeks to recreate these situations or experiences that feed that same emotional loop. Yikes. So this loop is made up of this 3-part emotional addiction cycle. So we have repetitive childhood conflicts or an experience that really ingrained within our psyche, and this becomes our normal state. And then we perpetuate this as we are seeking out safety, even though it could be putting us in harm's way. So therefore, whatever you experience with the highest frequency during your formative childhood years becomes your body's operating protocol to maintain homeostasis. So this is why we keep hitting repeat on these cycles. So every decision, every relationship, and even your outlook and perception as a whole bring you back to this emotional state in an accidental attempt to help you survive. So we're really trying to help ourselves survive through perpetuating these experiences. But now it's our job to actually discover what the emotional addictions are, connect all the triggers, behaviors, relationships, and the evidence to see these addictions, and then rewire them with emotional repatterning. So safety equals repetitious cause and effect. So to your brain, safety doesn't require emotional stability, peace, quiet, or even love. Safety simply means it knows what is most likely to come next in the sequence with a clear rule in place for what to do next. In most cases, the brain actually feels safe or engaged in cycles that result in chaos, rejection, self-sabotage, anxiety, and frustration. Can I get a woot woot? Because this is calling you out, right? And it feels good to actually say and be like, oh, okay, so, but this isn't your fault. So I don't want you to get into this shame spiral or anything within this. Yes, you are the problem, but you are the solution as well. But it feels good to just know, like this is your brain trying to keep you safe. And so then when you can be objective about this, we can witness and say, oh, honey, let's choose again. Okay. So, how we respond to our environment in these 7 ways. So, through assumptions, through past behavior, through body language, through voice tone, subtext, intuition, and actual words, right? We already started to touch on this, but this little meme over here is, so they didn't respond because they're busy. Don't jump to any conclusions. You know this, but then your brain jumps to conclusions, right? Leaping all over the stage. And this is a funny example, not so funny, but hey, babe, it's over. Wow, fuck you. I slept with your brother, by the way. I meant the football game. What the fuck? Well, this is awkward, right? That's a clear jumping to conclusions and also some pretty toxic behavior there. So you dodged a bullet, buddy. So humans are natural born storytellers. I love to tell stories. I think that there's a lot of healing and magic in it, but we already talked a little bit about how you can be sharing your story and be perpetuating a lot of the bullshit, right? So despite our best intentions, we are actually unable to tell the same story twice. And it's not because you're trying to lie to me. So let's talk about dog whistles, and it's important. So your brain effectively has two recording tracks. So it has its explicit and its implicit memory. And we don't get too deep into the neuroscience aspect today, but it is very important to understand that both memory tracks affect our behavior and our decision making. So we have the amygdala, which affects implicit memory. So these are the things that you do not know that you know, and it's stored trauma. And it's cellular or DNA memory as well that's been handed down to us. And then we have our hippocampus, which is our explicit memory. These are the things that you know, like dates, people, places, academic knowledge, etc. But during the process of memory recall, we can actually experience a fight that blocks us from reconciling important information that holds the keys to our healing. So this fight ensues between the amygdala and the hippocampus. So information seems really conflicting, stories don't match with what we've heard from our loved ones. We feel an emotion that doesn't match with our memory of the experience. All of the above are signs that you're experiencing this fight during a memory recall. So we use directed storytelling through this that uses a logic to actually sift through all the relevant data to actually formulate a strategy. So the fight is the memory recall includes conflicting information and emotional response ensues. But through directed storytelling, you actually completely bypass all of that and you're able to get to the core of it. So often these conflicts will create override messages. So we create a positive belief or an affirmation that we use to override these like this negative self-talk with a negative or fear-inducing context. We focus so much on these override messages that we believe we've actually turned off that deeper belief or message that keeps popping up internally to tell signal behavior options to your body. But in break method, we actually learn to track these deeper messages, the things that you're not actually actively aware of affecting your emotional state, and then we unwind the chemical ties to these messages. So this is your story and all the critical information that can actually help you heal before break method. So sifting through the memories can be challenging and a lot's going to be coming up. But this is what often it looks like prior to break method, a detail of a detail, right? But we'll straighten that out. Most forms of therapy or behavioral change actually rely on you being able to give objective accounts of information and to tell your story. But unfortunately, your story, or more importantly, your account of that story, is precisely what's keeping you stuck, trapped, and suffocating. Yeah, Einstein over here. Cool story, bro. Needs more science. So some food for thought. Often our story is more likely a highly subjective movie script about our life experience than a useful data-rich tool that can change our lives. We're going to talk a little bit about the keystones of break method, and this is how we're going to achieve sustainable emotional healing. So first, we want to recognize that number one, the obvious and socially influenced experiences are not the pattern of origin. So in most cases, the brain actually attempts to latch onto something significant, obvious, or overtly upsetting, like abuse, a parent abandoning the family, or a divorce. But generally, these are red herrings or just distractions in the attempt to rewire the brain. So going on to the second one, we actually have to extract the data, and break method helps you to completely eliminate that distraction of the red herring. So there's a common societal imposed belief that a crescendo event like the parent leaving or a divorce happening actually creates the behavioral problem. But it has been our consistent experience with students that these crescendo events are experienced through a lens already created by the repetitive inputs of the child's environment. So like mom's inability to remain patient, for example, would do far more to influence the child's brain development than a father who left at age 2 and was never heard from again. You are not being patterned by someone who isn't there. What does everyone think about that?
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
how
'cause
many times do we want to blame it on, a
Right.
crescendo event?
that's what I was gonna say. I feel like anytime someone might have a situation like that, their focus is more on that rather than like what you just said, where it's yeah, I'm like kind of mind blown.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is good stuff. And I'm super glad that you're here, because just having this information right here and being able to even share that with another can create a massive shift for people, that in itself. But we must be able to extract the data so that we can become clear of, where did this actually originate truly. And we help you do all of that. It's so awesome. So we can completely bypass your own narrative infused version of the story, and then learn how to make sense of the data and assimilate your true pattern. So we must extract the data undetected to bypass the protective reflexes. Okay, so that chemical response that we have. You also need a set structure or a container to learn, observe, listen to, and outsmart the virus as it attempts to evade your rewiring efforts. And that's what we have here. That's what we're doing together. Break method is conducted in a set sequence. It has to go in the exact order that it's been given to you in, with an intentional structure that serves as a fail safe to help you catch yourself when you misreport, distort, or flat out lie out of a protective reflexes. How many times have you caught yourself saying something and you immediately catch yourself in a lie? You're like, why did I say that? I had no intention of lying. I didn't, I'm just keeping, that specific detail out, but why? There's a protective mechanism that's going on in the background. Number 4 of the keystones, you have to learn how to observe your own thought processes before they become actions. So during this process, you're going to experience something called reality vertigo. And this is when ultimately the truth just slips away and we begin to observe our past experiences more objectively. And it can be, it can be hard, but I want you to prepare for this reality vertigo, but don't fear it. Don't be afraid of it, because this is very important and this is where the shift actually happens. Number 5, you have to test out this 8-part pattern extensively before applying the rewiring strategy. Break method teaches students to identify the input and output relationships. Like we talked about before, the input is going to be the parent or guardian figure. The output is going to be you or the child. And so you're going to take those relationships and experiences from the early childhood that created the 8-part brain pattern constellation. And during the self-study 30-day challenge, you're going to learn that general arc of the patterns as they apply to your current pain points and the foundational rewiring strategy to really generate some momentum. Break method uses a scientific method. Students move through a series of exercises to test their pattern hypothesis before forming the conclusion that will serve as the keystone for their rewiring blueprint. Okay, so we're really, really focused on the science here, though I always bring in a spiritual focus. We really just want to be able to put the information out there and test it and work through it, test it again before we come to the final conclusion. Number 6, you have got to come face to face with your chaotic behavior, your irrational decisions, and your assumptions, and it's going to suck. You're going to be feeding yourself a shit sandwich. And once you begin to take accountability for your role in every situation, because ultimately we all had a choice, and every choice that we've made has led us exactly where we are right now. And until we take that responsibility, we're not going to be able to truly move forward and heal. Break method teaches students to rewire emotional reactions with a series of intentionally and individually crafted logical questions that are targeted to a predefined trigger. Break method diagnostic tools are used to predetermine behavior sets, assumptions, we call them ACB pathways, and outcomes in a variety of relational areas in life. And you'll be going through all of this in your workbook, and we'll be going through it day by day, excuse those. So going forward, I know that I had mentioned we're going to be starting on the 9th. I know some are still waiting for their physical copy to get delivered, but if any of you are wanting to start on day 1, feel free to. I'm going to be voice recording every single day's prompts and also little video for how to get started using the book, and I'll be dropping those in the Discord group. If you have any questions during that time, before we start on next Monday, the 9th, we're going to be meeting at 5:30. Again, we're going to be meeting similar to this fashion. We'll be doing a little bit of light yoga, talking, and at that point on that day 1, I would like everybody to just pop on and introduce themselves. So get prepared to, be interacting with this group, this community. Very excited for it. So feel free to get into the work. If you are going to get into the work, just shoot me a message, whether it's on Instagram or text message, and just let me know so that I can be checking in with you. And remember that this work is intentional. So that means that every moment that you're triggered and decide to hate me or want to throw in the towel, it's all to collect the data and to learn the pattern. So good luck and trust the container. If any of you have any questions or want to share anything or talk, now is the time. But as this webinar finishes, I just want to say thank you so much for trusting me in this. I'm really excited. This is big, big work. I actually was able to find my journal from 2 years ago when I was able to do the Come Out Better Challenge with similar work. So I'm excited to be able to go through this work from this lens, this prescription that I'm wearing now, which is still distorted, but going through the break method container in February is going to be a huge goal of mine that's been years in the making. So thank you for trusting me in this. Thank you for being a part of this yourself. And yeah, if anyone wants to pop on or just say goodbye, I would love to see your beautiful face or hear your
Hey,
beautiful voice.
thank you so
Hey,
much.
you're
Thank you.
welcome.
I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit more about the vertigo you were saying?
Yeah.
I know.
So reality vertigo. So this is going to be when you start to witness your response and your involvement in all of this. So you begin to see things shift, the lens lifts and clarity comes, and you might be able to see a perspective that you were never able to see before. And it can make you feel dizzy because for your entire life up until that point, or from the experience up until that point, you've believed it to be a completely different way, or even just a slightly different way. And even a slight shift, those micro shifts can be very eye-opening. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think
Yes.
I experienced some of that this summer when we were traveling in the RV. So that's why I was like, whoa. But
Yeah.
yes, I'm excited to go more into it.
Yes.
But
And
yeah,
we
thank you.
will. Yes, of course, of course. So it's ultimately when the truth slips away and you're beginning to see the observed past experiences in an objective way versus a subjective way, right? Because subjectively is, you know, our view of it. And we all know that our view is skewed or distorted because we've got, you know, our protective mechanisms and reflexes that are we're not aware of. So, anybody else have any questions or want some clarification on anything?
I'm just excited to work on it every single day, but also I think I'm going to start doing journaling
Yeah.
with my self-study. So I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah. And two, like we'll find I think journaling is a great tool. But we also need to be aware of with journaling how we can be perpetuating our story in that as well. But I do believe that it will be of um it will be a benefit for you to be doing them side by side so that you can become aware of it and create a healthy journaling practice, because some people have very unhealthy journaling practices. And this is something that was kind of like a what? And then I realized how I had done that in my own experience. So
Yeah,
something
I
else to
think
think about.
taking some of the questions from your PowerPoint is a good way to introduce journaling. So like one of them,
Yes.
how your beliefs affect our perception of reality. That'll be my one for today.
Yes. And as for sure, that's awesome. And as we go through the planner too, the way that it's set up will allow us to be able to feel into specific emotions and experiences. So that will naturally be prompting you through some journaling exercises. But yeah, I definitely there's some great ways to be able to channel like those feelings and those emotions. But yeah, you have to just be careful, you know, that it's not creating a perpetual loop. But we're not doing
Yeah.
that anymore.
No.
That's why
Could
we're
you just
here.
touch on some like what you think are like bad journaling habits?
So it would be when you are putting a lot of emotion that might be a distorted lens behind your journaling. So like there's this specific journaling technique that I feel can be helpful, but this is a good example of how you could really perpetuate some negativity. And it's called Rage on the Page. And this can be very helpful if you go through with it and you're actually able to um, um, use certain tools like breath work and actually get rid of the evidence by burning or whatever. But by writing out, you know, all of your feelings, your experience, and then confirming that that is truth, that this is what happened, right? When in fact it is not what happened. So you're still allowing yourself to believe that you're the victim, that this is, you know, this is their fault, this is somebody else's issues, this is because of them, and not taking any ownership in that. So
Sure.
the separation would be, you know, the ownership in, okay, while this is my perspective, now I can shift and take, you know, coming, you know, what must that have been like for them to experience that, right? So shifting into, you know, more of that collective thought than that individual like victim mindset through journaling.
Okay.
Or like, you know, because people will take their journal as a way to complain too. So if you're complaining in your journal about lack of intimacy or communication or your assumptions, you're putting your assumptions into it, then that's going to be perpetuating that negative behavior as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more because I've been journaling for like 6 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt that like all I was doing was basically just getting things off my chest, but nothing was like I wasn't getting anywhere with it.
Right.
And then when I switched last year, I tried gratitude journaling, and that was like way more helpful for me.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more on that. That was definitely a major shift in my own life as well. Because, you know, constantly have the goal of consistently journaling, even though I had a experience where when I was young, my grandmother actually, she journaled every single day of her life pretty much. She had like a library of her journals. They were all this specific leather bound journal. So I had a strong example of journaling every day in my life from the beginning. And so I did journal, and then I went through, you know, a lot of chaos and trauma. And at 12, one of my dad's best friends killed himself, and I journaled about it, and I talked about how it was my dad's fault because he had joined the Mormon church and his friend felt like he abandoned him and all of these things. And I also wrote a bunch of boys like names in the journal. Well, my dad read the journal, and he like sat me down to talk to me, and I was worried about the boys. Like I was like, oh, now he does have a crush on all these boys. And but really it was the issue of his friend passing, and him wanting to explain that. But that was such a like game changing experience in my life that I just completely stopped writing in a journal for years and years and years. And then that became a goal I always was trying. Okay, I want to consistently journal now. I'm going to, you know, make sure that I'm doing it 15 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, you know, even just 5 minutes a day. And then when I would get into those habits, I would, you know, begin to feel anxiety rising within me because it would trigger back memories, and I didn't know where it was coming from. Now I do know it was coming from this experience. And now my journaling is in a much more, it's shifted to gratitude journal and to daily tasks and to, you know, it's just more of an organizational tool for me than it is and a tracking tool than it is a this is what happened today, and you know, I can't
Yeah.
believe this happened kind of thing. So
Yeah. Thank you for.
yes, of course, of
Shouldn't be
course.
outlet per se.
What was that?
It shouldn't be like an outlet every single day where you're just complaining or
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, a lot of people do because they don't feel comfortable sharing. You know, they might not have that person to, it's just like, you know, that person that you'd call on the phone to bitch to. It's the
Mhm.
Right.
same kind of idea, but it's in a physical format. And also there's so much power behind writing. There's a lot of power behind writing because you're literally spelling, you're casting these experiences into your experience again and again.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy, crazy. Well, let's see. I think that I can go ahead and end that. And I
Yeah.
think
Thank you for
we'll
bringing this
stop.
opportunity to us, Jess.
Of
I've been excited
course.
about this workshop since you brought it up because I knew it was something I needed. So I've been looking forward to this.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to the continued experience, but yeah, I can't wait to see what this does for everyone. And yeah, this first container, I'm gonna pour my heart and soul into it and give you all anything that I absolutely can, anything and everything I can. I just want it accessible for everyone, and that's why I just have it as purchase your book. I'm going to be here for you every single day. Like I want this for you. I want this for us. So here we are. Let's do this, girls.
Yes.
This is exciting. All right. Well, we're gonna stop for today. But I'll be in touch on the Discord group. Yeah, reach out to me, send me your videos, your intro videos, and 3 goals you want to accomplish at the end of this experience. And have a beautiful day. Do something lovely for yourself and for your loved ones.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Mhm.
Bye.
Bye.